Welcome to the very first episode of Detailer's Terminology, where we break down commonly used detailer terms that you might not know exactly what they are with Ted, our detail professional. Ted, our first word is iron fallout, which we would use with this product. We'll have you break down, but the whole goal of Detailer's Terminology is to maybe help people understand basic detailing terms, but to the full extent of what they mean from a detailer's perspective.
So from the detailer's perspective and using the terminology, iron fallout is basically iron deposits that come off of a couple different sources. Right, so one for wheels is typically your brakes, right? Rotors, you might have some iron in your pads depending on what kind of pads you have. What happens as you apply the brakes, that breaks up and sits on your wheels. Those iron deposits can stick into the wheel and cause corrosion, right? Like rusting and kind of things like that.
Like minuscule levels of rust that you can almost barely see.
In a lot of times you can't see it. It's invisible to the eye, which is where the iron fallout and the wheel X really comes into play, because when it does react with those iron particulates, it changes color. And that's how you know that, like, you really have those kind of in the wheel. The other source that they come from is actually from rail car transportation. So brand new vehicles come off the manufacturer, they get loaded onto rail cars, trains, right? And they go across the country to wherever their destination is. It's the same thing happening with your brakes, right? Steel tracks for the rail, steel wheels, that floats up. They're typically not completely open, but not completely closed. Well, that stuff floats up and lands into the paint. So iron fallout remover is not just for wheels on maintenance applications. It's actually to decon the paint as well.
What does decon mean?
Decon is decontamination, right? Decon is the term in the industry for detailers to use. It's just a shortened up version of decontamination. Iron fallout removers are the chemical side of decontamination. So what happens is, we use that on the paint or the wheels. It reacts with the iron particulates to dissolve them so we can wash them away.
So Ted, with something like Wheel X, which is a very strong smelling and a strong chemical in general, it hits all the marks of strong chemical. Does it damage clear coat? Does it damage your clear coat on your wheels? Does it damage certain metals, aluminums versus steel versus coated, powder coated? How does it react with certain materials?
That's a great question. So the short version is no. It's actually a type of acid that is very, very close to neutral. So in the industry, we typically refer to that as a neutral pH because it's so close to being neutral. But technically speaking, it is acidic, right? But it's not super strong acid.
And when you say pH, when it has a higher pH, that means it's going to be technically like a stronger acid. To someone who doesn't understand that scale.
No, so if you don't understand the pH scale, right in the middle is a pH of 7, that's neutral. So anything above that would be alkaline, or also known as base, and then below that would be acidic. You're like 6 to 6.5 on that. So technically speaking, it is an acid, but it's so close to being neutral. In the industry, we refer to it as a neutral still because it's so close. The main ingredient in the chemistry world is known as perm acid. So there's a much larger word for it, technically speaking. In chemistry, it's ammonium
something fancy.
Dimethylcollotate or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. But essentially what it is why it's referred to as perm acid is because it's the exact same ingredient that's used to perm hair.
And that's funny because I tell everyone this smells, when I was little, I'd go to my great grandma's house and she would be getting a perm.
And it smells the exact same.
And the first time I smelled
this is a lot stronger because the
Yeah.
concentration in an automotive style chemical is way higher than what you're gonna put in your hair. But keeping in mind that is the same type of chemistry that's used for that, is it harsh on your vehicle? No. Anytime you're using any type of product, but specifically a iron fallout remover like ours, like Wheel X, on wheels, the first thing you do is rinse the wheel. And what does that do for us? It cools it down, right? Has that vehicle been driven? If it's really hot and you spray a chemical on a hot surface, it's gonna flash. Flashing any type of chemical can cause damage. That being said, it is really safe. So on wheels, you rinse it with water first to cool it, pull off the heavier debris, spray that on, let it dwell, see that color change happen. That's how you know it's working and reacting with the iron. Brush it at that point if you need to, or rinse it. And then you do the same thing with your paint. Kind of spray it all around, let it dwell, see it work, and rinse it.